Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon.
So we'll be beginning our biology classes from today. And the first chapter, as I told you, the chapter is deleted. And we'll be starting with chapter 2, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Very briefly, you have learned in lower classes about sexual reproduction taking place in flowers, the different parts of a flower. Can you tell me what are the four whorls of a flower? WHORLS, the four layers. Gayatri, which are the four layers?
Sepal, petal,
In order you go.
sepal,
Sepals,
petals,
petals,
then pistil and same.
pistil and
Same.
stamen. So these are the four layers. And sepals, what is its function, Lydia? Do sepals perform any function?
Yes, ma'am.
What is its function? You know, they are small green leaf-like structures. What is its role?
It protects the flower from its bud.
Very good. It protects the flower when it is in the bud stage. If you notice buds, you can see the sepals will be covering the entire bud and giving it protection. And as it blooms, then sepals will be shifted to the lower part of the flower. Then petals. Petals in majority of the plants, in majority of the flowers, they are brightly colored. That is meant for Nidhi. Why petals are brightly colored? Why petals are brightly colored?
Don't know, ma'am.
Oh, yo. Such a simple question. You don't know, Nidhi? Malavika?
To attract the insects for
To attract
pollination.
the insects for
pollination.
pollination. Nidhi will repeat.
To attract insects for pollination.
And in night blooming flowers, you can see the petals will be white in color because at night that is the color visible. So that is meant for main function is to attract the insects for pollination. Then we have pistil, we can call it as carpel, or even we say it as gynoecium. Already we have learned these terms last year. So gynoecium comprises of gynoecium and androecium. Gynoecium consists of pistil or carpel. Which are the different parts of a pistil? Punya, which are the different parts of a pistil?
Stigma, style, and ovary.
Stigma style ovary with ovules inside, whereas stamen or androecium consists of stamens. Each stamen has got two parts. Which are the two parts, Mehek? The stamen has got two major parts. Which are they?
Where the pollen stick to, and
Now my question is, which are the two parts? Stamen has got two parts, two major parts. Who can help her? Tanya,
A stalk and anther.
what do you call the stalk? Starting with the F. F-I-L.
Filament.
Filament. Filament is a stalk-like structure, and then there is a lobed structure at the tip, which you call as anther. You're going to learn about all these in detail, but these points you have already learned in the previous classes. So Mehak, which are the 2 points? Which are the 2 parts?
filament and anther.
Filament and anther. Together they make up the stamen. Okay. And flower, as I already told you, these are the sites of sexual reproduction. Fertilization or sexual reproduction takes place in the flower. So let us learn more about sexual reproduction taking place in flowering plants. So before proceeding, what is the main difference between sexual and asexual reproduction? You know that in plants, asexual reproduction also takes place. But what is the difference between the main difference between asexual and sexual reproduction? Anna, Let it be any organism. What is the main difference between sexual and asexual reproduction?
Pollination.
Louder.
Pollination takes no.
I told any organism. It's not really, I'm not limiting it to plants. When we, in a broader sense, asexual and sexual, what is the major difference?
Both male and
Ah,
male
one.
organ
In which
included
one?
sexual.
In sexual reproduction, both male and female parents are needed, and there'll be what? Huh?
Fertilization.
Means
Fusion.
fusion of gametes. Whereas in asexual reproduction, only one parent is required and there is no formation or fusion of gametes. So let us learn more about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, Naureen. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants, chapter 2. All flowering plants, we call them as angiosperms. You know, there are angiosperms and gymnosperms. And angiosperms are flowering plants. And all these flowering plants, they show sexual reproduction because flower is a site of sexual reproduction. Remaining, the other parts we can say as a vegetative parts, but this is the reproductive part. A flower is a reproductive part of a plant. And all flowering plants. So flowering plants, we put them under the category angiosperms. Hope you know the differences between angiosperms and gymnosperms, which we have learned in class, I think 9 we have learned. Anybody is remembering the major difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms? Anybody? Question is open to all.
Gymnosperms, the seeds are naked.
Louder, Nandana.
In gymnosperms, the seeds are naked. They are not covered.
Seeds are naked in gymnosperm. Seeds are not enclosed inside the fruit. Then, angiosperms?
They're within the fruit.
Seeds are formed within the fruit. And you know how a fruit is formed. Okay. And no flowers are produced in gymnosperms, whereas these flowers are produced, in angiosperms. So angiosperms include the flowering plants. So all flowering plants, they show sexual reproduction, and flowers are the sites of sexual reproduction. And the formation of flowers is under the control of different factors. So many hormonal and structural changes will lead to differentiation and development of a floral primordium. Floral primordium means a group of cells which will develop into a flower. That is known as floral primordium. So that will gradually develop and form a flower. So it is under the control of the formation of flower, or the preliminary step, that is the formation of a floral primordium, is under the control of several structural and hormonal changes. So hormonal and structural changes will take place, and this will lead to the differentiation and development of floral primordium, a group of cells which will gradually develop into a flower. Inflorescences bear the floral buds and then the flowers. So inflorescences, you know, means a branch or a branch of the plant bearing flowers. A group of flowers you can see arranged on a branch of the plant. So that is known as inflorescence, bunch of flowers. So inflorescences, first they will form floral buds. So floral primordium will be formed first. They will lead to the formation of buds, floral buds. And these floral buds will gradually change into or develop into flowers. Okay. First, floral primordium. You can see the picture of a floral primordium. And in general, I told floral primordium, but it consists of a carpel, petal, and stamen primordia. You don't have to learn all these different types of primordia. Just understand that subjected to different structural and hormonal changes. A group of cells will get differentiated and develop into floral primordium. And from these floral primordium, flowers will be formed. And where do you see these buds or formation of floral primordium? On the inflorescences? Inflorescence means a branch of the plant where the flowers are produced. So there the floral buds will be formed, which lead to the formation, which lead to the development of flowers. So once again, I'll repeat: angiosperms or the flowering plants, they can carry out sexual reproduction, because flower is a reproductive part of a plant, or else you can say these are the sites of sexual reproduction, because the male and female reproductive organs are found in the flower. It can be either in the same flower or it can be found in different flowers. So you have learned about unisexual and bisexual flowers. And when some changes, hormonal and structural changes take place, it will lead to the differentiation and development of a group of cells which you call as floral primordium. And this floral primordium will gradually form floral buds which will bloom into flowers. Hope you have understood. Now, a flower is having four whorls are there, but the two major whorls which form the reproductive parts of a plant of a flower are androecium and gynoecium. Definitely you have learned that there are four whorls: petals, sepals. But if you just consider the parts which are involved in reproductive process, you can say these are androecium and gynoecium. Androecium is a male part of the flower and gynoecium is a female part of the flower. It's easy to remember, you know, gynecology. So gynecology means what? It's a branch of science which deals with feminine diseases found in female. So gynecology, gynecologist, so related to female. So gynoecium is a female part of the flower and androecium is a male part of the flower. So here you can see already we discussed these parts: petal, sepal, and perianth, which includes corolla. Corolla for petals, we can even call it as corolla. Calyx is the other name for sepals, and corolla and calyx together we can call it as perianth. So corolla, which consists of petals, and calyx, which consists of sepals, together we can call it as perianth. Okay, perianth. And then petal, sepal, and here you can see androecium, and androecium enlarged view is given, filament and anther, the stalk-like structure, filament and anther. Then we have gynoecium, which consists of stigma, style, ovary with ovules inside, and each of these part you will be learning in detail. So once again, a typical flower is having two major parts: androecium and gynoecium. Androecium comprises or consists of the male reproductive organs, whereas gynoecium is a female part of the flower consisting of the female reproductive organs. Now we'll start with androecium. Androecium is a word consisting of stamen, men, men. So it's a male part, and it's a male reproductive part of a flower. It consists of a whorl of stamens. Their number and length, the number of stamens and the length of the stamen, it's not fixed for all the plants, or it's not common, or there'll be differences among the flowers. So some plants will have more stamen. So we learned about stamens forming bundles and all in class 11. So the number, how many stamens are present, whether they are forming bundle, single bundle, two bundle, or whether they are free, all that vary from flower to flower, and the length also can differ. So in some cases it can be short, in some cases it can be long. So those depends on the flowers. The number and length are variable in different species. So different plants will have stamens of different number and length. Once again, I'll repeat the points. Stamen or androecium is the male reproductive part of a flower. An androecium consists of a layer of stamens or a whorl of stamens. The number of stamens and the length of the stamens can be different for different flowers. It depends upon, it can have variations from species to species. A stamen is having two parts. A stamen consists of two major parts, anther and filament. So here in the figure, you can see filament and here the anther. This entire structure you call it as anther. Filament is long and slender. It's a stalk-like structure. And its proximal end is attached to the thalamus. So this part you can find, this will be, this part of the proximal end will be attached to the petal or even to the thalamus. You know, thalamus is a structure from where the petals arise, the receptacle. Last year, I think you've learned about thalamus. So the part from where the petals originate. So its proximal end is attached to the thalamus or to the petal of the flower. So that is about filament. Then comes anther. So at the tip of the stalk-like structure, you can see a lobed structure. Usually it will be bilobed. Okay, filament is a long and slender stalk-like structure and its proximal end is attached to the thalamus or the petal. Then comes anther. Anther is present at the tip of the filament and that is why it is mentioned it is terminal. You can find at the terminal end of the filament or at the tip of the filament, and in typically or generally it will be having two lobes. It's a lobed structure and it will be having two lobes. Each lobe is having two thecae, or we call it as dithecus, means chamber or compartment. So theca means compartment or chamber. So inside each lobe, you can see two chambers. Once again, I will repeat, anther is terminal, and typically in general, there can be exceptional cases, but generally anther will be having two lobes. Inside each lobe, there will be two chambers, two thecae or two chambers. So we call it as dithecus. So the anther is dithecus, means it's having two chambers in each lobe. Each anther is having two lobes. Inside each lobe, there'll be two compartments or chambers. And a longitudinal groove runs lengthwise, separating the theca. So separating the chambers, so separating the different chambers, there'll be a longitudinal, a groove-like structure, which will be separating out the different theca. So the theca will be separated out by means of a longitudinal groove, just a groove, and it is not completely divided, but you can see a longitudinal groove separating out the theca. Once again, a stamen comes under androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive part of the flower, and androecium consists of a whorl of stamens, and each stamen has got two parts, anther and filament. Filament is long, slender, stalk-like structure, and its proximal end will be either attached to the thalamus or directly to the petal. Then anther you can find at the tip of the filament, and it is typically, generally, it consists of two lobes. And inside each lobe, there'll be two compartments or chambers. And since it is having two chambers or two theca in each lobe, you call it as dithecus. That condition is known as dithecus, presence of two chambers in each lobe. And a longitudinal groove runs lengthwise, separating these different chambers or theca. Any doubt? Okay. Next, let's see a transverse section of an anther. Already you understood what is an anther, or anther and filament together they form the stamen, and the whorl of stamen forms the andrecium. All that we learned. You already have previous knowledge regarding the same. So next what we are going to learn is about the transverse section of an anther. Anther is a tetragonal structure consisting of four microsporangia located at the four corners. So here you can find a transverse section. Here you can see a transverse section is taken, and that region is enlarged over here. You can find an enlarged view of a transverse section of anther. As you can see, it's a tetragonal structure. You can see it is having four corners. So there are four corners. So you call it as a tetragonal structure. And in each of the corner, what you see is microsporangium. Plural is microsporangia, which will form pollen sacs where pollen grains are produced. So each corner is having one microsporangium each. If you take a transverse section of an anther, you will find four microsporangia at four corners. So each corner will be having a microsporangium, and microsporangia is plural, which will later develop into pollen sacs where the pollen grains are formed. Each lobe consists of two microsporangia. So each lobe will be having, so already you know there are two lobes, and each lobe is having, so in each lobe you can find two microsporangia. Altogether, four microsporangia are present, and this will gradually develop into pollen sacs. Once again, inside the anther, you can find microsporangia. If you take a transverse section, you will find it is having a tetragonal structure with four corners, and at each corner you can find a microsporangium, and in each lobe there will be two microsporangia each. So altogether we can find four microsporangia. What is the significance of this microsporangia? They will gradually, or they will later develop into pollen sacs. They extend longitudinally all through the length of an anther, and they'll be packed with pollen grains. So this microsporangia, you can find that they will be longitudinally extending throughout the length of the anther. They'll be extending out, they'll be spread across the entire length of the anther, and these pollen sacs or microsporangia will be filled with pollen grains. So anther, inside the anther, microsporangia, which will develop into pollen sacs. Inside the pollen sac, pollen grains are formed. And these microsporangia, they'll be extending longitudinally along the length of the anther, and they'll be filled with pollen grains. Any doubt?
Ma'am,
Last point. They extend, these microsporangia or pollen grains will be extending longitudinally all through the length of an anther. See here you can find, see it is not limiting to a, It is not limiting to a particular region. It is extending longitudinally all through the length of the anther. And they'll be filled with pollen grains. Okay, Sania? Who asked me the doubt to repeat again? Hope it is clear. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will see in detail the structure of a single microsporangium. So we started with andrecium. Andrecium consists of a whorl of stamens. Each stamen is having anther and filament. And in anther, two lobes are present. Typically, generally, flowers will be having anthers with two lobes. And inside each lobe, or if you take a cross section, sorry, transverse section, same as cross section of anther, you will find it is a tetragonal structure having 4 microsporangia at each corners. And these microsporangia will develop into pollen sacs. Now we are going to learn in detail the structure of a single microsporangium. And these here you can see the same figure is given in your textbook. This much region is enlarged and shown. Just this much part is enlarged and shown over here. It's a very, very important diagram. Once this diagram was asked and you were asked, they had given A, B, C, and you were asked to label it. And I think this was given as C, and the label A, B, C, and give the function of the part labeled as C. So it's a very, very important topic. Repeatedly, questions are asked from this part. A typical microsporangium is circular in outline, and this microsporangium is covered or surrounded by 4 wall layers. You can find 4 types of layers covering a microsporangium. The outermost layer, you call it as epidermis. Epidermis is the outermost layer. Then you find a layer inner to that, which you call as endothecium. Then 1 or 2 layers, we call it as middle layers. A few layers which form the middle layers. And then you can find the innermost layer, that is tapetum. You call it as tapetum, and its function you will learn. The outer 3 layers, that is epidermis, endothecium, and the middle layers. They give protection. They provide protection to the contents inside, the pollen grains forms inside, and they also help in the dehiscence of the anther to release the pollen. You know that only when the anther breaks open, the pollen grains can be released. So these 3 layers, the outer 3 layers, they perform 2 functions. One is to provide protection. The second one is it will help the anther to break open, to dehisce, so that the pollen grains can be released. Okay. Once again, a typical microsporangium is circular in outline. As you can see in the figure, it's circular in outline and it is covered by 4 wall layers: epidermis, endothecium, middle layers, and finally tapetum. And the first 3 layers, that is epidermis, endothecium, and the middle layers, they provide protection and help the anther to break open so that the pollens can be released. Any doubt? No doubt.
No, no.
Now coming to the innermost layer, tapetum. Tapetum is the layer which nourishes the developing pollen grain. So function of tapetum, it will provide nourishment to the developing pollen grains. And the features of tapetum, these cells, the cells which make up tapetum, they are rich in cytoplasm. They have dense, thick cytoplasm, and they are multinucleated. Usually they have more than one nucleus. When the anther is in the young stage, so the characteristic features of tapetum, I'll repeat once again, it's the innermost layer. Function is to provide nourishment to the developing pollen grains. And the structural features, it's having dense cytoplasm and presence of more than one nuclei. And when anther is in the young stage, a group of cells in the center of the microsporangium, there'll be a group of cells compactly arranged, homogeneous cells. Homogeneous means similar cells. So in the center of anther, a group of compactly, very closely arranged similar cells, you call it as sporogenous tissue that can be found at the center of each microsporangium. Its function and what happens to this sporogenous tissue, we will learn later. So there are 4 layers. Guarded by these 4 layers. At the center, there are some similar compactly arranged cells. You call these this particular group of cells as sporogenous tissue. You find it at the center of each microsporangium. Okay, children, have you understood till here?
Ma'am, can you repeat the last point?
So we were discussing about the structure of a microsporangium. You understood that there are 4 layers. The functions of the 4 layers also we discussed. But in the center or at the center of each microsporangium, apart from these different layers, wall layers, there are some specialized cells which are similar, homogeneous, similar type of cells, and they are very closely, very compactly arranged at the center. And that mass of cells you call as sporogenous tissue. That group of cells you call as sporogenous tissue. You find them at the center. And that too when the anther is in the young stage. But as the anther grows, some changes takes place in the sporogenous tissue and pollen grains will be formed, which you will learn in next class. Okay?
Okay.
Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt? So what makes up andrecium, or andrecium consists of, Rijas? Andrecium comprises of andrecium is made up of
Filament and anther.
together, what do you call it?
Filament and anther.
Together, what do you call it? Filament and anther
Stamen.
together, stamen. So andrecium consists of a
Stamen.
whorl of stamens. And we learned the detailed structure of andrecium. And andrecium, as we already discussed, it is having anther and filament. What do you know more about the structure of this anther? Nia, what did we learn about the structure of anther? Anther is a
Terminal and typically bilobe.
typically bilobed, and it is terminal, found at the tip of the filament. And inside the lobe, how many lobes are there? Nia, how many lobes? How many lobes are there in anther?
2.
2 lobes. And inside each lobe, what do you find, Nidhi? Inside each lobe, what can you find?
Grooves.
Yes? Inside each lobe.
Grooves.
No. Nandana?
2 microsporangia.
Before that will come later. Inside each lobes, you can find 2. Microsporangium comes later. Who can tell? Yes, Meenakshi?
Rutika.
Somebody said? Meenakshi, tell me the answer. I can't hear. Yes, Mehak has says 2 theca. So you can see theca. That is why you call it as dithecus. Okay, when you take the transverse section, you get more details. But in Anther is a bilobed structure, and each lobe is having 2 theca or chambers or compartments, you can say. And when you take or when you examine the transverse section of an anther, you will find it is a tetragonal structure having, Nandana, now what you said, it's having
Microsporangia.
microsporangia at the 4 corners. And what is special about microsporangia? What are the different layers covering the microsporangium, Michael? Which are the 4 layers?
Tapetum,
That is the innermost layer. What forms the outermost layer? Hmm?
endothelium,
Endothelium second. Just like in our case, outermost layer,
epidermis.
epidermis, then endothelium, middle layers, and finally tapetum. What are the functions performed by the outer 3 layers? Donna, 2 functions are performed by the outer 3 layers.
They give protection
Protection,
and they help to release the pollen.
helps in the dehiscence of the anther, or the breaking down of this, or anther will break open to release this pollen grain. So it will help in the dehiscence of the anther to release the pollen. And now coming to tapetum, what is its function, Malavika? What is its function?
They nourishes the developing pollen grains.
Nourishes the developing pollen grains. What did we learn about the structural features, Gayatri?
They have dense cytoplasm.
Dense cytoplasm, then
They have more than one nucleus.
more than 1 nucleus, or it is multinucleated. Many nuclei are found, and it's having dense cytoplasm. What else we learned? At the center of each microsporangium, what can you find? Naurin,
A group of compactly arranged homogeneous cells.
a group of compactly arranged homogeneous cells. What do you call it?
Sporogenous tissue.
Sporogenous tissue. The function of the sporogenous tissue we will learn later. It will remain as the sporogenous tissue only when the anther is young. So as the anther develops, changes will take place in the sporogenous tissue. About that we'll be learning next class. Please do revise. Please do read the textbook. Based on the topics what we have covered, I'll be asking you questions. Only then we'll proceed with the next day's topic. Okay? Any doubts means you can ask me now. No doubts. So thank you, children.
Thank you, ma'am.